So when I say Beijing, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a long, long time, the answer for pretty much everyone was smog, right? A thick, soupy haze that just blanketed the city skyline. But here's the thing. That picture is about a decade out of date. Something truly remarkable has happened, and today we're going to break down exactly how one of the world's biggest cities fought a war against pollution and actually won.
Yeah, this quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? Imagine that. A clear, blue sky was so rare that you'd actually pull out your phone to take a picture because you knew it wouldn't last. It was this constant, visible reminder that something was seriously wrong. But the real enemy, that was something you couldn't even see. The main bad guy in this story is something called PM 2.5. Now that sounds super technical, I know, but the reality is actually pretty simple and kind of scary. We're talking about microscopic particles. And when I say microscopic, I mean they're just 1/30th the width of one of your hairs. They're so tiny, they just sneak right past your body's defenses, getting deep into your lungs and even into your bloodstream. This was the invisible threat hanging in the air.
Okay, so flashback to 2013. This was the tipping point. The average PM 2.5 level hit almost 90. And just to be clear, that number is way into the hazardous zone. So that year, the government did something pretty drastic. They officially declared what they called a war on pollution. And look, this wasn't just some catchy slogan. It was a signal that a massive, all-out national effort was about to begin.
So how in the world do you fight a war against an invisible enemy? Well, Beijing's battle plan was to launch a massive three-front attack, going after the biggest sources of the problem. First up, remaking the hearth, which meant changing how millions of people heated their homes. Second, restructuring industry, a top-to-bottom overhaul. And third, clearing the arteries, tackling the millions and millions of cars on the road.
All right, let's dive into that first front, the hearth. You have to picture this. For generations, especially during those freezing cold northern winters, millions of homes relied on burning raw coal just to stay warm. It was cheap, sure, but it was incredibly dirty, and it was one of the main reasons for that thick winter smog.
And this wasn't just about the air quality outside. The danger was inside the house too. Families were making their own coal bricks, and the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning was a constant, real threat. So to fix this, officials literally went door to door, household by household, helping people switch over to electric or natural gas heat. I mean, can you imagine the logistics? It was a monumental effort, and by 2015, it paid off with the city's very first coal-free district.
And check out the results. This is where it gets crazy. The impact was immediate and just staggering. In only 4 years, pollution from coal burning dropped from making up over 22% of the problem all the way down to just 3%. Boom! With that one move, they basically knocked out one of the single biggest sources of pollution in the entire city.
Okay, so with the homes getting cleaner, the war moved to its second front, the city's massive industrial base. All those factories, big and small, were the next huge piece of the puzzle.
And their approach here was, well, it was aggressive. 3,000. Just let that number sink in. 3,000 of the worst polluting factories were just shut down, gone. And that's not even counting the 12,000 other smaller businesses that were forced to upgrade, move, or just close up shop. This was a complete and, I'm sure, pretty painful reinvention of the city's industry.
And that brings us to front number 3, the roads themselves. You've got millions of cars, trucks, and buses, all pumping out emissions right at ground level where people live and breathe. Clearing these city arteries was absolutely crucial. Their strategy for this was really smart, kind of a 1-2 punch. First, they went after the old dirty stuff. They got 3 million of the highest polluting vehicles off the road for good. But at the same time, they pushed hard for the new stuff, heavily promoting these new energy vehicles. And it worked. Today, there are over 1.3 million of them on Beijing's roads, with more and more chargers popping up everywhere.
Okay, so that was the battle plan. Fix the heating, overhaul the industry, and clean up the cars. A massive, decade-long effort that changed the city forever. So, the big question is, after all of that, did it actually work?
Oh, it worked. The results are, well, they're honestly kind of mind-blowing. Remember that horrifying number from 2013? Almost 90? Today, it's down to 27. That drop is so dramatic, so fast, that the United Nations actually calls it the Beijing miracle.
But we got to put that number 27 in perspective. It's a massive win for sure, but the job's not totally done. It's still a bit higher than places like New York or London. And it's well above the ideal guideline of 5 from the World Health Organization. And this brings up a really important point. Air quality isn't the same all across China. If you go down south to a city like Shenzhen, its air is already as clean as many major Western cities.
So, you might think after winning these huge battles, they'd declare victory and go home. But nope, they're not stopping. Now the war is changing. It's going from these huge, sweeping reforms to a micro-level obsession with hunting down every last little bit of pollution.
I mean, they're actually calling it a 0.1 microgram initiative. How's that for getting into the weeds? They're pulling out all the high-tech toys, laser radar, satellites, you name it, to find these tiny sources. And what's really cool is they're not keeping this playbook to themselves. They're sharing what they learned with cities like Bangkok. Plus, they're making it pay to be green, using environmental taxes to make it a smart business decision to operate cleanly.
When you step back and look at it, the story of Beijing is it's incredible proof of what's possible when there's a real, determined, large-scale effort. It completely flips the script on that old idea that pollution is just the unavoidable price you pay for development. And it leaves us with a really powerful question, doesn't it? If a megacity can pull off this kind of turnaround in just a decade, what could our own cities accomplish?